Have you ever had a nagging feeling that something was off, but you couldn't quite put your finger on it? That unsettling sense when you're around someone, like your energy is quietly being drained even though there's no fight, no open conflict. You show kindness, patience, and generosity. Yet you leave those interactions feeling more tired, more unsure of yourself, more lost. And strangely, you keep going back. You keep exposing yourself. You keep pretending you don't notice. But what if I told you this isn't just coincidence? That some people around you act like they're on your side, but secretly resent you. That there are individuals who can't bear to see your light, and will, without making a scene, silently and skillfully, work to dim it. And here's the worst part. They know exactly what they're doing. You, on the other hand, are too busy keeping the peace, trying to be the bigger person, to see the venom hidden beneath their sweet words. And maybe that's why you keep surrounding yourself with people who undermine you, because there's still a part of you that doesn't want to see the truth, a part that clings to the illusion of connection instead of confronting the harsh reality of emotional betrayal. But enough of justifying hostility disguised as care, enough of accepting emotional scraps because you're afraid of being alone. This video isn't for those seeking comfort. It's for those who are tired of being emotionally manipulated by the very people who should uplift them. It's for those ready to learn how to spot these deceptive masks, understand what their presence says about you, and most importantly, break free from this silent cycle of emotional exhaustion. Because holding on to these people isn't compassion, it's a form of self-sabotage. If you've ever suspected someone but couldn't bring yourself to confront it, if you're surrounded by people who seem to wish you well, but secretly hope you fail, this video is for you. Not to soothe you, but to wake you up. It's easy to believe that enemies are far away, that danger comes in the form of open attacks, arguments, or scandals. But the most dangerous betrayal is the one that comes dressed as affection, when the hug hides invisible thorns, when the compliment is laced with envy, when the person who wounds you smiles while doing it. Carl Jung described this as the projection of the shadow. What does that mean? It means that people who are unwilling to face their own darker emotions, envy, insecurity, frustration, the need for control, will unconsciously project those feelings onto others, often onto you. They'll find sneaky ways to drag you down while pretending to build you up. It's the coworker who dismisses your achievements as luck, never acknowledging your effort. The family member who claims you've changed since you started improving your life, using that against you. The friend who's supportive until your success becomes a reminder of their own failures. These people rarely attack you outright. They know they can't, so they adopt a more cunning and dangerous strategy, pretending to love you. That's when the real damage begins. You start doubting yourself. You wonder if you're overreacting, being paranoid, seeing things that aren't there, but you're not. Deep down, you do see it. You just don't want to believe it. Because admitting it means accepting that someone you trusted is working against you. And here's the cruelest twist. They often play the victim. The moment you begin to pull away, they accuse you of being distant, ungrateful, or cold. They flip the narrative, making you feel like the bad guy for protecting your peace. This isn't love. It's manipulation, emotional control, dressed up as care. But why do you let this happen? Why do you tolerate this emotional performance? Maybe because a part of you still needs it. A part that feels safe in the pain it already knows. And that's exactly what we're going to explore next. In the next part, we're going to look in the mirror and face the truth with unflinching honesty. What do these kinds of people reflect about you? Why do you unconsciously keep them close? If this message resonates with you, hit the subscribe button and join the channel. Thank you for your support. It's tempting to label others as toxic, fake, or jealous. But Carl Jung pointed out an uncomfortable truth. Everything that irritates us and others can lead us to a deeper understanding of ourselves. The problem is never only with the other person. If you keep attracting people who drain you, who disguise their sabotage as support, then the real question is, why? There's a part of you that allows it, seeks it, even depends on it. Not out of malice, but out of conditioning, out of old wounds, out of deep-seated patterns you may not even realize you're repeating. Maybe you grew up learning that love meant always being available, always understanding, always putting yourself last. Maybe you were taught that in order to be loved, you had to abandon parts of yourself. Maybe pain was always part of affection. So now, without even realizing it, you recreate that dynamic in your adult life. You attract people who reinforce that story, that your worth lies in your self-sacrifice. The fake people around you reflect how often you don't stand up for yourself, how afraid you are to displease others, how much guilt you carry for setting healthy boundaries. They are mirrors, showing you the places within where healing still needs to happen. And as long as you don't recognize this, you'll keep mistaking emotional captivity for friendship. You'll confuse loyalty with submission. You'll think you're being strong by silently enduring everything, when in reality, you're slowly falling apart. Carl Jung once said that meeting oneself is the thing most people spend their entire lives avoiding. Maybe that's why you keep these people close, because focusing on their deception spares you from confronting your own neglect. As long as you're pointing out the venom in others, you don't have to face the wound within you that allowed the poison to take root in the first place. But here's a truth you need to face. These relationships will not change. They exist not to evolve, but to pressure you into changing. Manipulation only stops when you stop cooperating. The moment you accept your part in this dynamic and choose to step away, you begin to break free. But before you can truly walk away, you need to understand what staying is really costing you. That's what we're about to explore. Next, the invisible toll these connections take on your mind, your body, and your soul. Sometimes, by the time you recognize the damage, it's already too late. Emotional harm doesn't always arrive with loud insults or obvious attacks. Often, it creeps in silently, hidden in casual comments, in a disapproving glance, in a presence that pretends to love you but secretly wants you diminished. That's the real danger. These people don't take everything at once. They chip away at you slowly. First, they make you question a decision. Then they cast doubt on your confidence. Eventually, you begin to hold back your thoughts, shrink your presence, censor your feelings just to keep the peace. Then one day, you wake up feeling empty. You're tired even though you've done nothing, sad without understanding why, anxious without cause, as your energy has already been siphoned away, and you didn't even see it happening. This kind of slow erosion affects every part of you. Your thinking becomes foggy. You feel unsteady. You start to believe you're too sensitive, too emotional, maybe even weak. But the truth is, you're under a subtle psychological assault. Jung talked about the energy exchanges that happen in every human relationship when two people interact. It's not just words, they're sharing energy. And if you're tied to someone who envies you, who represses you, who uses you as a dumping ground for everything they refuse to confront in themselves, that energy affects your entire system. You might try to understand them, justify their behavior, be the bigger person, but your body knows, your intuition knows, your soul knows. Still, many people ignore the signs. They continue pretending everything's okay. They keep smiling for those who quietly wish their downfall. Why? Because the truth is painful. Because admitting someone close to you is draining the life from you requires bravery. Bravery to finally say enough. And as we move forward, you'll see that this bravery is what it takes to finally stop the cycle. What happens when the mask falls off and you finally see the truth? That's a moment of awakening. It feels like a shock, but also a release. Suddenly, it all clicks. The sarcastic compliments, the helpful advice, laced with criticism, the guilt of never doing enough, Now it all makes sense. You've recognized the pattern. But then comes the harder part. What do you do with that truth? This is where many people falter. Realizing the truth is one thing. Acting on it requires something more. Courage, resolve, boundaries. And that's incredibly hard when the person in question is someone close, someone you care for, someone who may have even supported you in the past. And because of those good memories, you convince yourself you can't walk away, but you can. And sometimes, you must. Recognizing the pattern is only the beginning. If you don't follow that awareness with action, nothing will truly change. You can read all the books, attend therapy, watch endless self-help videos, but if you still allow that person access to you, if you still let them belittle you or control you, you remain stuck. Awareness without action is just a distraction, dressed as growth. Jung once said, "You do not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." In other words, identifying the toxicity isn't enough. You have to confront it. You have to draw clear lines. And you have to be prepared for pushback. Because when you start stepping away, they will resist. They'll call you ungrateful, dramatic, distant. They'll claim you've changed. That's because they're losing control over you, and they'll fight to keep it. This is the ultimate test. Will you fall back into the guilt and manipulation? Or will you stay grounded in your truth, no matter how uncomfortable it gets? Will you return to the same toxic patterns, just to avoid seeming harsh? Or will you, for once, protect your energy like it's your lifeline? Yes, it will hurt. Yes, it will be difficult. But continuing to stay silent, to endure, to accommodate that, will hurt even more in the long run. Because as long as you don't make a real change, the cycle continues. The faces may change, but the emotional damage will remain the same. In the next section, we'll explore how to cut this cycle for good, how to separate without guilt, and how to rebuild your strength without falling into emotional traps set by those who need you to stay weak. It's time to learn how to protect yourself, not out of anger or revenge, but out of love for yourself. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to check out my ebook, Beyond the Shadow. It unpacks Jung's key insights and offers practical tools to help you navigate relationships and understand yourself more deeply. The link is in the pinned comment. Letting go of someone who hurts you can be one of the hardest choices you make. Not because you still believe they'll change, but because you've been conditioned to see distancing as weakness, selfishness, or betrayal. You've been told forgiveness is always noble, and endurance is maturity. But here's a truth you won't often hear. Enduring what is unbearable doesn't make you enlightened. It makes you complicit in your own suffering. Choosing to walk away isn't weakness. It's self-preservation. It's understanding that not all bonds deserve to be kept. Some ties aren't bridges, they're chains. Some relationships aren't spaces for growth, they're chains. Emotional traps that keep you stuck, stagnant. You owe nothing to those who drain you. Loyalty is not servitude. Love is not about sacrificing yourself one-sidedly. Carl Jung once said that healing happens when we stop resisting our own individuation, the process of becoming who we truly are. And that journey demands breakups. It calls for you to undo those unspoken pacts with people who want to keep you small. It asks you to let go of the fear of being perceived as cold and begin protecting your energy with the same intensity you use to protect those you care about. Because now is the time to include yourself in that equation. But how do you actually do that? Begin with emotional distance. Stop justifying yourself. Stop trying to fix the relationship. Deep down, this person knows what they're doing, they just never thought you'd notice. When you stop reacting, stop explaining, stop clinging to the connection, their power fades. In these cases, silence is more potent than any speech. Then, set clear boundaries. Maybe you can't cut contact completely. Maybe they're part of your family, your work life, or your social world. That's okay, but that doesn't mean you have to keep exposing your heart. Learn to guard what is yours, to preserve your energy, to avoid falling again into the trap of false affection. And yes, prepare for loneliness. It will arrive. It will be frightening, but it will also heal you. In the space these people leave behind, something new can grow. Your strength, your authenticity, your autonomy. When you step away from those who deplete you, you reconnect with your core self. But remember, distance is just the beginning. The real transformation begins with what you choose to fill that empty space with. Because cutting ties is the first step. True change comes when you fill that void with something that uplifts you. And that's what we need to talk about now, what your absence creates, and how it echoes. When you leave, it forces the other person to confront what you were silently holding together. And that's when everything begins to shift. When you finally remove yourself, change happens not just within you, but around you. The silence you leave behind reverberates. It echoes in the mind of someone who once used you as a mirror, a shield, or an emotional crutch. And that echo becomes unbearable for those who never learned how to face their own emptiness. Because suddenly, you're no longer there to absorb their projections, ease their guilt, or carry burdens that were never yours. Suddenly, the game ends, and they're left alone with what they worked so hard to avoid, themselves. That is the power of your departure. It reveals everything. Absence is more powerful than confrontation. When you disappear, the other person is finally forced to face the truth they long hid behind your presence. And in that light, everything becomes clear. What they called love was control. What they called affection was possession. What seemed like admiration was envy, and the bond. It was a cage. But this isn't just about them, it's about you. It's about taking your energy back, rebuilding your identity, breaking free from the role you were pressured to play. When you walk away from draining connections, you begin living your life with greater awareness. You start saying no without guilt. You listen to yourself. You prioritize your needs. You trust your intuition, again that quiet voice you ignored out of fear of being too harsh. The truth is, you owe nothing to the people who tried to diminish you. What you do owe is to yourself. Respect, clarity, strength, and from the moment you refuse to keep dancing in the cycle of emotional manipulation, you reclaim your power. You break free. So, if these words struck a chord with you, leave a comment. Share the moment you realized someone close to you was emotionally draining you. When did it finally click? Sharing your story might help someone else still trapped in that invisible pattern. Let's turn this space into one of a witness, not one of silent complicity. And if you felt this message resonate, don't stop here. The next video